Remember when you had that great idea, like a really good one, but the second you tried to say it out loud, nothing came out. You just couldn't find the right words. Or even worse, you managed to get some words out, but it was so messy, people just went, "What? What do you mean? What?" And you just completely flopped the idea's hype in 30 seconds. Gone. I surely made that mistake more than I wish to admit. Back when I was diagnosed with social anxiety and it was a total mess, I was bullied. It got so bad, I just preferred not saying anything at one point. I got hurt so many times by the disappointment of being misunderstood and underestimated and made fun of. I just gave up. And it was only when I understood what I'm about to show you today that I started speaking in a way that was so clear, so specific, so concrete, nobody had questions. And not only this, I'm gonna show you how I eventually managed to get them to buy into the idea that you're sharing with them. Because after all, this is what allowed me to build a six-figure business. This is what allowed me to build Born to Speak, which is now on its way to become the #1 public speaking community on school, and how I got to win Speaker of the Year in 2024 at Toastmasters. It all comes down to the one skill I'm about to share with you today, the capacity to express yourself in a clear, articulate way that moves people. I've helped hundreds of people do exactly this to get better at speaking, get better in their content, close more deals, and I'm about to do exactly the same with you today if you just stick with me for free. Now, the #1 most important thing you could possibly master in the way you speak is to use stories. Notice how at the beginning of this video, I immediately went to how I used to be socially anxious, I used to struggle, I used to be bullied. I created a hero's journey indirectly, which is the only reason why you're still here with me. The only reason you're still with me is because I made it real in your head. I used examples, I used stories, you can use metaphors to make something real. People don't care about facts, they don't care about information unless they're moved by emotion first. Just like in sales, people buy from emotion then justify it in logic. Same thing when you are selling an idea. How are wars created? What is war? What is religion? The most powerful forces that shape human history. What is it? It's nothing else than a story. Us against them, the common enemy, good versus evil. These are the patterns, the deep patterns of the human psyche that have moved people throughout history. Billions of people have died because of stories. Billions of people have been saved because of stories. If someone can willingly attach a bomb to themselves and throw themselves in a crowd of innocent people in the name of something greater, in the name of doing it as heroes, do you believe you can sell someone on your idea? Of course you can. Let's say I wanted to sell you on the idea of how I run my workshops. So I run my workshops in a way that has no script. Right now I have no script whatsoever. I had a script for the intro, first couple sentences. I have an idea of what I'm going to talk about, but I have no script I'm following here. You can see it in the way I'm speaking. There's no way I have a script. Now, the way I do my workshops is based on the principle of immersion. Literally just being thrown on stage and get live feedback. Let's say I wanted to sell you on that idea. You know what I would do? I would say this. I would say, there's a lake behind us. What would be the fastest way for someone to learn how to swim? Let's say you wanted to teach someone how to swim. What would be the fastest way to do that? Would it be to have a whiteboard here and share with them all the swimming techniques, step by step, for hours, just theory, philosophy? Or would it be to give them the 3 core principles, 5 minutes maximum, and then throw their ass in the water? Get them to learn as they go, and you're right next to them teaching them on the spot how to figure it out. What will be the fastest, not more comfortable, not most enjoyable, the fastest way for them to learn how to swim? Obviously, is the immersion. Same thing with language. What's the fastest way to learn a language? 15 minutes of Duolingo per day? Or being thrown in the middle of a country that only speaks that language and have no other choice but to survive? You see what I'm doing with that? As soon as you have this in your mind, as soon as you have a metaphor, an analogy, now it's more clear for you. Now the idea is obvious. You want to get my personalized feedback? You can find everything you're looking for in the description. But what happens so often, and that's the big problem, people get confused and they start yapping in all sorts of directions. They are so all over the place that they end up losing people regardless. You can share the most random story, like, I don't know, if I start speaking about flowers or something, I just saw flowers there, so I thought about it, I'll lose you guys. So that's why we have what's very important that a lot of people struggle with, which is focus. I gave a specific example for a specific idea. I see that in my workshops so often. I would get someone on stage and then they'll start sharing their life story and then they'll go all over the place, and I'm not moved whatsoever because we never went in depth. Focus allows you to go in depth. You're better off giving one specific example that really paints the picture than giving so many different examples that confuse people. And the best strategy I know to stay focused is to know your audience. Know your audience, know your outcome. After that, go all in. Know your audience, know your outcome. That's it. I know right now I'm speaking to entrepreneurs. I'm speaking to entrepreneurs, closers, people who the way they speak allows them to move people, move money. That's my audience. So I'm very clear in the examples that I give. I'm very clear in the ideas that I share, that this is what I'm focused on. If I was speaking to 80-year-old retired nuns or something in a church, it might be different than speaking to purpose-driven entrepreneurs who are about to enter the peak of their careers. Now, so far we've covered the capacity for you to share stories in a focused way that has a specific outcome for a specific audience. Now here is the honest, unfair advantage that I believe is costing so many people so much potential. It actually makes me sad sometimes, and I mean that. There's so many people who are so good at what they do, and yet there's someone out there who's younger, dumber than them, making so much more money, building bigger audiences, balling for one and only reason, and that is conviction. Conviction is what matters most. Let's use the example of a guy, whether you like him or you hate him, Andrew Tate. This guy, the reason he has so much influence, at one point being the most Googled man on earth, especially with the younger generations, is because he speaks with so much conviction, it almost bypasses the analytical part of our brains. It's literally hypnotic. It bypasses the analytical part of the brains. Why? Because of what's called authority bias. We've all heard of it. What authority bias is that our brains are consistently optimizing for making the best decisions possible with the least amount of risk possible. And what happens is, if we were to analyze every single thing we hear in life, if you were to analyze right now every word I'm saying as you're listening to this, you won't get anywhere. So your brain is optimizing for, who can I trust, who can I not trust? When people have authority, we automatically trust them more. We save time. We save energy. Same thing when someone speaks with conviction. It bypasses it. It creates the authority bias. Right now, you see me speak, I have so much conviction. Most of you are more receptive to my ideas because of that. And this, honestly, in the beginning of my career, I got opportunities I didn't deserve. That's why I'm saying it's the most unfair advantage. I got into rooms, I got into opportunities that I was far from deserving. I had my first coaching business at 18 years old. I don't recommend that. I don't encourage that. I now have different sets of values and beliefs. I made it happen though, and it was because of my capacity to speak with conviction. So all of these things I've shared, it's not what you say necessarily, it's how you say it. It's how much conviction do you have. This is how the greatest leaders in history, we're talking like prophets, we're talking Jesus, Muhammad, they were speaking with so much conviction, it was divine conviction. Or if you want to have a more grounded example, but on the dark side, you have Hitler. Hitler had so much conviction, he ended up creating a world war. So often when a client joins Born to Speak and they're having some sort of business, they're selling something, I just spend the first few calls finding different ways to get them to have so much conviction in what they're selling that it does 80% of the job. Now, the reason they cannot do it alone is because so often we get caught up in our own heads and we have our insecurities. So someone needs to break our pattern. Someone needs to guide us on the journey, to show us their perspective, to put us into situations that are challenging for us to discover what we're really capable of. All of this is part of it. But the point is, my intention, my goal is to get them to have conviction. And that's how, for example, one of my clients, he was selling high ticket in coaching, and literally 2 weeks into working with me, we had a couple of calls. He goes, Danny, I closed my first deal without even needing a script. I didn't even have a script. I didn't use my script. It wasn't even there. I wasn't following anything. I was just improvising. I had so much conviction. That's what I mean. Now, we've covered some good stuff so far, but let me ask you this. Do you believe that using stories in a focused way with a lot of conviction would be enough to hype people at the deepest level possible? The answer is almost. But there's one last point that really, really gets people, well, literally to go to war, that can get someone to sacrifice their entire existence for your idea. And that is the capacity to ask the right questions at the right time. See, when you make something about you, even if you have extreme conviction and you have a compelling story, it's interesting, it's charismatic, it can move people for sure. But when you do it in a way that gets them to trigger what's called intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation, the capacity for you to ask the right question that plants a seed in their consciousness, that makes them feel like whatever conviction you have is now planted in them, and they arrive to the same conclusion that you have, that's the real power. And you can do that while speaking. What did I just do a couple of seconds ago? I said, do you think that these three are enough? The answer is, so you can do that in front of the camera. You ask questions that get people to unconsciously answer them while you're speaking. This is some deep shit. This is some deep shit. This is how you really move someone. Now, if you fuck with what I'm talking about and you want to see how that could be applied to your own content or your own sales, and you want me to give you personalized feedback, then there's a link in the description that will show you exactly how to make that happen. I also have a community, like I mentioned, Born to Speak, where you get to be on stage, you get to practice, you get to get live feedback, not only from me, but from your peers as well. Other than that, I keep on posting here often. If information is all you're looking for, then I got you. I'll never sell information. This will be always available on YouTube forever, and I give you everything that I have. If you want more feedback though, you know where to find me. Awesome. Talk to you soon. Peace.